Nothing has afforded me so convincing a proof of the unity of the deity as these purely mental conceptions of numerical and mathematical science, which have been by slow degrees vouchsafed to man, and are still granted in these latter times by the differential calculus, now superseded by the higher algebra, all of which must have existed in that sublimely omniscient mind from eternity. Mary Somerville. Thanks for reading No Mic Podcast Scribed by Facelesslingjutsu. Subscribe for free to receive new posts and support my work. Mary Somerville was a Scottish scientist, writer, and polymath who defied the limitations placed on women in the 19th century to become one of the most respected scientific minds of her time. She was born in 1780 and showed a keen interest in mathematics and astronomy from a young age. Somerville's intellectual curiosity led her to delve into complex scientific topics, often teaching herself with limited resources. She translated and popularized the works of prominent scientists like Laplace, making complex scientific concepts accessible to a wider audience. Her book on the connection of the physical sciences was a groundbreaking work that synthesized various scientific disciplines and became a bestseller. Somerville's contributions to science were recognized by her peers, and she was elected as the first female honorary member of the Royal Astronomical Society. She was also a vocal advocate for women's education and suffrage, believing that women should have the same opportunities as men to pursue their intellectual passions. Mary Somerville was born Mary Fairfax in Jedburgh, Scotland, on December 26, 1780. Her father, William George Fairfax, was a vice-admiral in the British Navy, and her mother, Margaret Charters Fairfax, was the daughter of an eminent solicitor. Mary was the fifth of 7 children, but only 2 of her brothers survived to adulthood. Mary's early childhood was spent in the small coastal town of Burnt Island, where she enjoyed a relatively carefree existence, exploring the natural world around her. Her mother taught her to read the Bible, but otherwise, her formal education was limited. When her father returned from a long voyage, he was dismayed to find that she could barely read or write. At the age of 10, Mary was sent to a boarding school in Musselburgh, but she was unhappy there and returned home after a year. From then on, she largely educated herself, devouring books on a wide range of subjects, including mathematics and astronomy. She was particularly fascinated by algebra, which she discovered by chance in a fashion magazine. 1804, married her cousin, Samuel Greig. This marriage was not a happy one and ended with his death in 1807. 1812, married her cousin, Dr. William Somerville. This second marriage was very supportive of her intellectual pursuits and provided a stable environment for her work. Despite her intellectual curiosity, Mary faced many obstacles in her pursuit of knowledge. Her family disapproved of her unfeminine interest in mathematics and science, and she was often forced to hide her studies. However, she persevered, and with the support of her uncle, Thomas Somerville, she continued to learn and grow. Dot was no longer amused in the gardens, but wandered about the country. When the tide was out, I spent hours on the sands, looking at the starfish and sea urchins, or watching the children digging for sand eels, cockles, and the spouting razorfish. I made collections of shells, such as were cast ashore, some so small that they appeared like white specks in patches of black sand. There was a small pier on the sands for shipping limestone brought from the coal mines inland. I was astonished to see the surface of these blocks of stone covered with beautiful impressions of what seemed to be leaves. How they got there I could not imagine, but I picked up the broken bits, and even large pieces, and brought them to my repository. 14. In 1826, Mary Somerville published her first scientific paper, titled On the Magnetizing Power of the More Refrangible Solar Rays. This paper explored the intriguing question of whether there was a connection between light and magnetism. Somerville focused her investigation on the different colors of light, specifically the violet rays of the solar spectrum. Through her experiments, she aimed to determine if these violet rays had any impact on the magnetization of a steel needle. Essentially, she used a prism to separate sunlight into its rainbow of colors and then concentrated the violet light onto the needle. After this exposure, she tested the needle to see if it had become magnetic. Somerville's findings led her to conclude that the violet rays did indeed possess the power to magnetize the steel. While her initial conclusions were later proven incorrect, this paper marked an important milestone in her scientific journey. It was her first foray into published research, showcasing her experimental skills and her deep curiosity about the interconnectedness of natural forces. Even though her initial hypothesis was disproven, Somerville's willingness to explore and investigate, and her openness to revising her conclusions based on further evidence, highlights the true spirit of scientific inquiry. This paper, though perhaps not her most famous work, provides a valuable glimpse into the early stages of her remarkable career. 1831 was the year Mary Somerville's groundbreaking work, Mechanism of the Heavens, was published. 1. It's a key milestone in her life and a significant contribution to the popularization of science. This book, as we've discussed, took Laplace's complex mécanique céleste and made it accessible to a wider audience. It's important to remember that this wasn't just a simple translation. Somerville's deep understanding of the subject allowed her to explain the concepts clearly and add her own insights, making the book both informative and engaging. 2. This was actually intended to be an introduction to her larger work, Mechanism of the Heavens, published the year before. However, it was also published separately and became a significant work in its own right. Here's what makes it important. Overview of celestial mechanics. The preliminary dissertation provided a clear and concise overview of the fundamental principles of celestial mechanics, laying the groundwork for understanding the more complex material in Mechanism of the Heavens. Historical context. It traced the historical development of astronomy, highlighting the contributions of key figures like Newton and Laplace. This helped readers appreciate the evolution of scientific thought and the context in which Laplace's Mécanique céleste was written. Accessibility. Like her other works, Somerville aimed to make this complex subject matter accessible to a wider audience. She explained the concepts in a clear and engaging way, avoiding overly technical jargon. On the Connection of the Physical Sciences was a truly ambitious and influential work by Mary Somerville. In it, she set out to demonstrate how seemingly disparate branches of science were actually interconnected and governed by universal principles. Imagine her as weaving together a grand tapestry of scientific knowledge, where astronomy, physics, chemistry, geology, and even magnetism and electricity were all threads in the same design. She explored how discoveries in one field often had implications for others, revealing the underlying unity of the natural world. On the Connection of the Physical Sciences was a resounding success, going through multiple editions and translations. It solidified Somerville's reputation as a leading scientific writer and thinker, and it played a crucial role in the popularization of science during the 19th century. It was a testament to her deep understanding of various scientific fields and her ability to synthesize them into a coherent and engaging narrative. In 1848, she published her next major work, Physical Geography. This book was groundbreaking in its approach, as it sought to provide a comprehensive and holistic view of the Earth's physical features and their interconnectedness. Somerville explored the planet's geology, climate, topography, and the distribution of plants and animals, emphasizing how these elements influenced each other. Physical geography was not just a compilation of facts, it was a thoughtful analysis of the forces that shape our planet and the intricate web of life it supports. It was also remarkably forward-thinking, as Somerville considered the impact of human activities on the environment, a topic that is still highly relevant today. This book was incredibly popular and widely praised, becoming a standard textbook on the subject for many years. It further cemented Somerville's reputation as a leading figure in science and solidified her legacy as a pioneer in the field of physical geography. In 1869, at the age of 89, Mary Somerville published On Molecular and Microscopic Science. This two-volume work delved into the fascinating world of microscopic organisms and the latest discoveries in cell biology, microbiology, and the then emerging field of molecular theory. It's quite remarkable that she undertook such a comprehensive and up-to-date exploration of these topics at her advanced age. On Molecular and Microscopic Science reflected her enduring intellectual curiosity and her commitment to staying at the forefront of scientific knowledge, even as she approached 90 years old. Mary Somerville passed away on November 29, 1872, in Naples, Italy. She was 91 years old. Even in her later years, she remained intellectually active and continued to contribute to the scientific community. Her death marked the end of a remarkable life dedicated to expanding scientific knowledge and making it accessible to all. Mary Somerville's story is remarkable precisely because she did manage to overcome these obstacles, demonstrating the extraordinary talent that existed, often untapped, within the female population. It forces us to contemplate the sheer waste of human potential that resulted from these restrictive social structures. It's not just about the individual women who were denied fulfillment, it's about the collective loss to society as a whole. In 1874, just a year before her death, Mary Somerville's autobiography, Personal Recollections, From Early Life to Old Age, was published. This provided a fascinating glimpse into her life, struggles, and triumphs, offering a personal perspective on her remarkable journey. It's a valuable historical document, giving insight not only into Somerville's own experiences but also into the social and intellectual climate of the 19th century. The traces of extreme antiquity perpetually occurring to the geologist give that information of the origin of things which we in vain look for in the other parts of the universe. They date the beginning of time and show that creation is the work of Him with whom 1,000 years are as one day, and one day as 1,000 years. Mary Somerville. Awards: Silver Medal for solving a Diophantine problem 1811. This was an early recognition of her mathematical abilities. She solved a challenging problem posed in a mathematical journal, earning her this accolade. Honorary Member of the Royal Astronomical Society 1835, this was a landmark achievement, as she and Caroline Herschel became the first women to be admitted to this prestigious society. It acknowledged her significant contributions to astronomy and celestial mechanics. Patrons Medal of the Royal Geographical Society 1869, this medal was awarded to her in recognition of her work in physical geography, particularly her book Physical Geography, which was highly influential in the field. Reference and citation: O'Connor, J.J., and Robertson, E.F. 2004. Mary Fairfax Greig Somerville. MacTutor History of Mathematics Archive, University of St Andrews, Scotland. Available online. Neely, Catherine A. 2001. Mary Somerville, Science, Illumination, and the Female Mind. Cambridge University Press. Patterson, Elizabeth C. 1979. Mary Somerville and the Cultivation of Science, 1815–1840. Springer. Secord, James A. 2000. Victorian Sensation, the extraordinary publication, reception, and secret authorship of Vestiges of the Natural History of Creation. University of Chicago Press. This includes discussions on Somerville's influence on science popularization. Gillis, John R. 1985. Mary Somerville, the scientist who couldn't say no. The British Journal for the History of Science, 1802, pages 155 to 172. Scabinger, Londa. 1989. The Mind Has No Sex. Women in the Origins of Modern Science. Harvard University Press. Discusses Somerville among other women scientists of her era.